I'm a real boy. Do I sound like Pinocchio off of Shrek? I'm a real boy. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Guillermo del Toro is back, this time with an animated film, another Pinocchio movie? Do we really need... Yes. A father's wish magically brings a wooden boy back to life in Italy, giving him a chance to care for this child. Directed by Guillermo del Toro and rated PG, wow, for dark thematic material, violence, peril, some rude humor, and brief smoking. This, I am shocked it's PG. I get it. It's definitely one that kids can watch, but it feels like those classic, crazy enough, Disney movies back in the day where they would include things and imagery that spooked me to death. That's what this movie does, but it's not the Disney Pinocchio. It's distinctly different from the Disney Pinocchio, from the songs themselves, and there are still songs in this film, and they're very good. Maybe not as memorable as the Disney songs, but they fit the tone and they fit the world that this is a part of on a level that I just did not anticipate. And I also, for some strange reason, did not think it would be as dark as it actually was, because this movie, they do not refrain from hitting on themes here that are very adult, from these young kids going to war to obviously death, the afterlife, moments in Pinocchio's life that will terrify certain younger viewers. Now, it's not to the point where it's going to scar these kids for life, and I've seen animated movies before. You think to something like Coraline that will maybe show you something that is scarier. It's not like that. It's more so what these kids go through and the oath that Pinocchio has to this Count character played by Christoph Waltz. And speaking of Christoph Waltz and Cate Blanchett and Ron Perlman and Ewan McGregor and Tim Blake Nelson and Tilda Swinton and Bern Gorman and David Bradley, who plays Geppetto, this may be my favorite version of Geppetto. Oh my God. Mostly because the emotions are on full display here. I mean, absolutely spectacularly conveyed. The fact that this is an animated movie still blows my mind, because it just feels like you're there with this man as he loses his boy and feels as if he has to carve a replacement out of wood. Can you hear my wife vacuuming upstairs? I'm in the basement, so. Possibly my favorite version of this cricket, Sebastian J. Cricket. What an awesome... Well, it's getting really loud now. I love the reoccurring gags in this movie. The humor that comes back. It's sparse, way more sparse than one would expect, especially after the live-action Pinocchio remake earlier this year that had forced humor and unfunny moments and just a script that was just bafflingly mishandled across the board. Crazy enough, it was a remake of the original Disney Pinocchio, which I like. It just handled everything in a way that just made me kind of like done with that version of the story. I want something fresh. I can go back to the original Disney animated movie, but here there is humor that fits perfectly. But for the most part, you're focused on the emotional stakes and those very subtly charming moments that come from the character of Pinocchio, a character that comes about and knows absolutely nothing. But the theme of this movie is something that maybe I wasn't expecting. The theme of loss that carries over into that Geppetto and Pinocchio relationship. Geppetto, who lost his son, just wants his son back, but Pinocchio is not it. So the themes here, the movie's all about moving on in life, recovering from loss, and making that a focal point, and just taking time to allow characters to breathe just a little bit, to have conversations, whether it's Pinocchio sitting down and talking to one of these young boys about whether or not he wants to actually go to war or not. Again, making that a focal point of this film, taking away some things that we know about the Disney movie, but it's kind of like I had to get that out of my head. This is a completely different story, a different take on this story. There are even religious themes that we're dealing with in this film. And, you know, a lot of people in this movie, they're scumbags. They want to use Pinocchio for their liking, or they want to get rid of Pinocchio regardless. Listening to Gregory Menn's voice and how he handled this character all the way through, and you can even hear the growth as we continue, and you can see visually that this is someone or something that is starting to learn more along the way, and that's going to continue on long after this movie is over. And Del Toro, he conveys that. All of these characters, they grow along the way. The voiceover from Ewan McGregor, who again does an awesome job, unable to sing his song along the way. And then the detail in the animation. It's ridiculous. ridiculous. And I've always been a massive fan of this style regardless, but it feels like this is stop motion combined with 2 or 3 other types of animation. The art style is absolutely phenomenal here. And the way that this is structured visually, the textures, just the wood carving scenes. You know, when he's carving Pinocchio out of that tree, I'm sitting and intently watching. I'm just like, I mean, this is ridiculous. It's not often you get a movie that looks this good, but also has the story and also has the characters, and it's just a different version of this character to the point to where it feels like a totally different property, even though it is Pinocchio and all of the characters that we know and have seen before, just different incarnations of these characters. And I felt more of an emotional attachment. Maybe it's because we hit on the afterlife just a bit more and we get some of these crazy spiritual scenes. Like I said, I do believe the middle of the movie does slow down to a degree. Once he goes off and becomes a puppet for Christoph Waltz's character, but then he's torn between that and going to war, but also paying back his father. There's a lot going on at that point where the film does begin to get a bit convoluted. I could see how maybe kids would watch this. Again, not solely a kid's film. This is one for everyone. But I could see how they would watch this and get a little bored in the middle because there isn't a lot that is pushing the story forward. We're still getting that character development, but I could have used so much more in that like 20 to 25 minute span. But the end, in my opinion, bringing in things that we know about the Pinocchio lore, the way that that is handled is super cool. And then, of course, the emotional payoff that goes a step further than what I even imagined. I think of the ending of the live-action Pinocchio film earlier this year, and I think of the ending of this movie. It ain't even close. I mean, it's not even in the same ballpark, man, to the point to where I may or may not have gotten emotional. You'll never know. Before I give you my score, let me know down below what's your favorite Pinocchio movie. If you enjoyed this video and you want to drop a like, that would be awesome. And the secret phrase today is, I'm a real boy. Be sure to comment that to confuse everyone who didn't make it to this point in the video. The animation is stunning. The story is drastically different from what we know. And the way this is handled will bring a smile to most faces. My score is an 86%. I loved this Pinocchio movie. To me, it's one of the better animated films of the year. Just the attention to detail is ridiculous, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful film. Thanks for watching.